This year's FIBA Basketball World Cup takes place for the first time across 3 host nations, the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia, from August 25 to September 10. 32 teams, 8 groups of 4, play in a bid to clinch the coveted Naismith Trophy, culminating in the finals to be held here in the Philippines, the country's biggest basketball event ever.
On behalf of the hardworking leaders, officials, and volunteers behind the FIBA Basketball World Cup 2023, we welcome you to the World Cup 2023 draw. Today marks a consequential milestone as we approach the global basketball event of the year. Once we complete the draw today, the competitive landscape would have been defined, 8 groups formed, battle lines drawn, and rivalries renewed. But against these many faces of competition, the world will come together, uniting all basketball countries. With less than 4 months to go before tip-off, we may ask again what the FIBA Basketball World Cup means. The World Cup fosters unity, win as one. The World Cup celebrates competition, and the World Cup extols the many virtues of sportsmanship. To our friends around the world, join our new thriller in Manila, the 2023 Basketball World Cup edition. United by our passion for basketball, we will win as one.
The unifying power of the team sport, drawing everyone from across the globe to root for the best, be inspired by the best, leaving a legacy for the coming generations. Here's a recap of what went on in the FIBA draw last April 29th.
32 nations, 1 champion. Finally, the groups for the upcoming 2023 FIBA World Cup have been drawn. The 2023 FIBA World Cup draw was held at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. Sports superstars attended the event, including FIBA Global Ambassador Luis Scola and NBA legends Dirk Nowitzki and Yao Ming. Some Pinoy sports personalities were also in attendance, including Manny Pacquiao, Eliza Valdez, and Junmar Fajardo. The event was made more exciting with the stunning performances of Billy Crawford, Sara Geronimo, and Filipino-American rapper and singer Sweetie. The Philippines is placed in Group A along with Angola, Dominican Republic, and Italy, all of which have beaten Gilas in past games. Group B consists of South Sudan, Serbia, China, and Puerto Rico. Both groups will play their games at the Smart Araneta Coliseum. For Gilas coach Chot Reyes, their group will be a challenge for the national team. He says the team needs to work hard to represent the country well in the upcoming games.
Hindi medyo mahirap, mahirap na mahirap. Italy is number 10 in the world, Dominican is number 23, and we're basically tied with Angola at 40-41.
Meanwhile, Group C includes Team USA, Jordan, Greece, and New Zealand. Egypt, Mexico, Montenegro, and Lithuania were drawn to Group D. They will play at the Mall of Asia Arena. Meanwhile, Groups E and F will face off at the Okinawa Arena in Japan. And Groups G and H will play at the new Indonesia Arena. For now, Gilas' next move is to prepare for the SEA Games and to form the right lineup for the World Cup. Coach Chot said they've started picking players, which they will finalize by late June or early July.
There's no problem sa World Cup. There's a lot of players who are available because all of the tournaments all over the world are going to be on hold. So there's not going to be any kind of conflict with any other tournaments anywhere. So it's really a matter now of sitting down with the coaching staff and putting the team together. But for now, it's the Southeast Asian Games first.
The 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup will take place from August 25 to September 10.
One of FIBA's staunchest allies in developing basketball as a global sport is the National Basketball Association. I caught up with Mark Tatum in Manila. He's Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Commissioner of the NBA. He is also a member of the Executive Committee of FIBA. I began by asking him what we can expect ahead of the FIBA Finals.
I think it's going to be incredible, right? Team USA is going to be stationed here in the Philippines for the entirety of the competition, but there's going to be 32 teams in this competition. 20 of them at least are going to have some NBA players. So whether you're here in the Philippines watching the USA team or watching other teams that have NBA players, or in Indonesia or Japan, NBA players are going to be everywhere for this World Cup, which is terrific.
So let's make that out with the numbers. Like it could be at least more than 60.
Absolutely, yeah.
60 NBA players
That's
in the FIBA World Cup.
Absolutely. Not just American players, but NBA players like Luka Doncic and Giannis Antetokounmpo representing their national teams. The entire Canadian national team is going to be, in essence, NBA players. So we're seeing the level of competition now, and our international players, there's 25% of NBA players today were born outside the United States. That's over 120 players in our league that were not born in the United States. So whether you're from the United States or not, there's going to be an amazing competition here, because the level of basketball in this World Cup, I think, will be unprecedented.
And the level of energy, you can just imagine in a country like the Philippines where basketball is revered. That's going to push the players to even be at their best when it comes to the finals here in the Philippines. But how important is that for the development of international basketball as we know it? You've said the statistics, it's a 25% growth, but what do we see going forward?
Oh, I think that there's going to be a tremendous amount of momentum that happens in this region coming out of this World Cup. I think one of the things that sparked the interest of the international game was the 1992 Dream Team, when we first sent NBA players to participate in the Olympics. And that team, I know, inspired generations of future NBA players, and actually some who are going into the Hall of Fame this year.
That's right, like Dirk Kowalski.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki, and Pau Gasol and Tony Parker.
Tony Parker from France, so that's from Germany, from Spain, and France. So
Absolutely.
These are international players who actually took an interest in basketball because of the Dream Team.
Absolutely. Tony Parker tells this story that in his career, he wore number 9. And the reason he wore number 9 is because Michael Jordan wore number 9 in the Dream Team in the Olympics in 1992. So Tony Parker, who probably would have grown up to become a professional athlete, and maybe grown up in France, you end up going to play football or soccer at that time, but Michael Jordan inspired him to play basketball. And now he's going into the Hall of Fame this year. So players like Tony and Pau and Dirk, that Dream Team really inspired them to play basketball, to bounce a ball versus kick a ball. And I think with these competition here in the Philippines and Indonesia and Japan, young kids are going to be inspired to want to play the game of basketball. So I think is going to be the legacy that this World Cup leads. And then maybe one day soon, there'll be a homegrown player from the Philippines who ends up playing in the NBA because they saw NBA players here and they grew up wanting to be an NBA player.
Yeah, talk to us about the young, because it's really interesting that there have been some studies that a person who gets interested in basketball bounces a ball before they're 12.
That's right.
Does that age become any younger because of the exposure and social media, perhaps, more access to the game as an international team sport?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the data that we show still says the younger you can get kids bouncing the basketball, the more likely they are that they're going to be passionate fans of the game. And we found that to be true. I mean, I played basketball at a very young age. That's how I...
How young?
I probably started when I was 6, 7 years old in my backyard, just shooting the hoop. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the game of basketball is it's so accessible because you don't need a lot of equipment. You can play by yourself. You don't even need a hoop, really. I used to sit down and roll up balls of paper and throw it into a trash can and practice my
shot.
Exactly, and practice my shot in that way. So we've all done it. Since we've started our junior NBA programs here about 15, 16 years ago, we've actually engaged with some 2 million youth and coaches and parents through that junior NBA program. So there's no better way to get people to love the game of basketball than to get a basketball in their hand and get them to start bouncing it and shooting it. And then when you see these NBA players play, then you realize just how good they are, and you get inspired by that, and you admire the skill that they have in playing the game of basketball.
That's an interesting number. You said 2 million.
Yes.
Well, what's the demographic like? Like, which youth are you harnessing those talents right now, and where do you hope to go next around the world?
So nationally, we hope here in the Philippines to really engage with as many kids as we can. We're fortunate because of the passion that Filipinos have about the game of basketball, that it's widely played in schools, it's widely played in pickup games, but these are programs that we're creating to develop training and coaching and learning the fundamentals of the game of basketball. And we've actually had lots of success, Kathy. 10 junior NBA alums, kids that played in our junior NBA program, are now playing professional basketball regionally throughout Asia, including Kai Soto, who was a junior NBA alum and is now playing in Beijing, in Japan in the B League. So we're seeing tremendous success there in getting more kids to play through our junior NBA program, and then seeing them progress up the pathway to playing professional basketball.
Right, we're watching Kai and watching him shoot the hoops in different countries. How do we actually scale up the kind of leadership we're seeing now in Philippine basketball going global?
I think it's just a matter of time. I think this World Cup will actually help accelerate that. I think the infrastructure is there. I think that the ecosystem is there. I think that more regional competitions and getting more of the elite players here to participate in, whether it's coming to play college in the U.S. or playing with a G League Ignite as an example, in the G League, or some of our other academy programs. So those are the kinds of things that we're thinking about, which is how do you take some of the best players here in the Philippines, expose them to some of the best competition in the world, because it's a global game. And the way that you are going to get better is if you play against the best competition in the world. And so I think those are the kinds of things that we're focused on and that will help scale the development of Filipino players here on a global basis.
Talk to us about that ecosystem, the basketball ecosystem, because FIBA has been a big part. And you've had a partnership with FIBA, and that's ongoing. And FIBA had actually given way to the U.S. team to compete in the Olympics.
That's
a seminal moment, like you said, for the Dream Team to encourage others to play the game. But
That's
how
right.
does that move forward? FIBA helping you grow the basketball game as a global sport.
Yep.
And in return, the NBA helping FIBA leverage on it.
They're a terrific partner of ours, a long-standing partner of ours, going back to the 1992 Olympics. And since that time, now the NBA, and I represent the NBA on the FIBA Executive Committee. We're the only non-federation that is a member and a part of the Executive Committee and the Central Board of FIBA. So we've done collaborations with them over 3 decades. So things like Basketball Out Borders program, which is a program that we do together that brings the best players on each continent together for training, development, and not just basketball, but life skills too. So we think that's important to instill in these young kids and that young generation. We launched a league together in Africa, the Basketball Africa League. We work very closely with FIBA and the federations in every single country to create these grassroots programs and junior NBA programs. So FIBA has federations in every country and territory around the world that we work with to develop these programs to grow the game of basketball. The thing that we have in common with FIBA is we all want basketball to be the #1 sport in the world. And so we're working together. Even on this World Cup, we're coordinating with them, the local organizing committee, sharing with them our expertise and how to deal with player programs. We deal with players all the time at the NBA level. Here, the number of NBA players that are going to come in and participate in the World Cup, we're working with them on what kind of programs do you create for those players and big scale events and logistics. So we're working together on all of those, and content too. So, how do you use NBA players to promote the World Cup? And since they're going to be participating in it. So there's a lot of collaboration in a lot of different areas, but the common goal is we both want to grow the game of basketball.
In hindsight, in all the countries where you've held the World Cups in previous years, what has been the result? You made a mention of the growth of basketball in every part of the world that FIBA World Cup touches. But could you name us maybe a couple of statistics that would show us that this actually promotes basketball with teeth?
Yeah, I know one of the things that we looked at is we actually looked at the viewership of different countries who have participated. And it's incredible to see, for example, when the French national team goes far in the World Cup, their viewership goes up because there's and in some cases, it actually, really looks comparable. And we compare it to the NBA ratings because you get the whole the whole country behind these national teams. And so we think that that actually exposes some of those nations and the fans of those nations who may not love basketball, but they're excited because their country is competing in this world competition and doing well. But then they tune in and they see, oh, who's this guy? Rudy Gobert. Oh, he's an NBA player. And then that person starts following or thinking about the NBA. So, the World Cup, for example, drives interest broadly in countries because fans want to follow their country, but they may not know all the stories of these NBA players, but they get to know them through this. So there's a nice sort of symbiotic relationship there between the national team and their NBA club team and growing interest in the sport. So I think that's going to happen here too.
Right, the awareness just heightens because you brought the World Cup here,
Yes.
as you brought it in Africa. The African League, like you mentioned, a very interesting case study, if you will. What have you learned so far from the lessons of the African League? Because you just started that up in 2001 because of the COVID delay.
Yep.
But is that something that can be patterned here in the Philippines as you work with the different organizations, both national, local, and FIBA?
I think so. I think one of the differences between Africa and here is that the club competition landscape in Africa wasn't even as developed as it is here. So here you have the EASL, so there's a pan-regional club competition. The PBA is a very strong league with a tremendous amount of following. In Africa, the leagues at the local levels were just not as established, and the pan-African competition, again, there was nothing of any sort of prominence there. So we thought that there was an opportunity there to create more of an ecosystem on a pan-African basis, pan-continental basis. I think here there is an ecosystem, certainly in the Philippines and in other, Japan has leagues and China has a very established league. So there are established leagues here, and I think that there's an opportunity to create more. And there is the EASL is a club competition across the region. So we are thinking about with FIBA, how can we be helpful to that? But in Africa, that didn't really exist. So we're actually creating that, which we think is important for basketball to develop and grow in a particular region.
And in this particular region, it's 3 host cities at the same time, a very first for FIBA as well as NBA. Do you think the impact would be thrice as much?
I do, because what we're seeing is in places like Indonesia, for example, building of new arenas. And I do expect, and FIBA I know expects that in Indonesia, which is a very populous country, that basketball will grow there because this will be really their first opportunity to see world-class basketball players participating. And I think when you're a young kid in Indonesia and you see some of our star players in the NBA and from these other national teams participating in that game, it will have a similar, I think, effect to the Dream Team, where these young Indonesians will all of a sudden go, I've never seen something like that before, and get inspired to want to go play the game of basketball. So I do think that we're going to see that effect by spreading it out throughout this region and having more games in more places.
And more players actually wanting to come back to their own countries and building their own clubs or federations, their own leagues. Yao Ming, for instance, came back to China to build his own club of some sort and really propagate basketball as an international sport. I mean, that goes kind of full circle because you just don't train a player and have people get inspired by the player, but you get them to track the retirement period where they try to do stuff within the basketball community still.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to see. I mean, Yao was the head of the CBA. He started off with a team in Shanghai, which was a team that he used to play for. He ended up owning that team, running that team, and now he's the head of all of Chinese basketball for the federation. Same thing with a former player, Jorge Garbajosa. He runs the Spanish Basketball Federation. Hideo Turkoglu, a former NBA player, runs the Turkish Basketball Federation. So we have all these former players now who are taking leadership positions in driving basketball in their countries. They played in the NBA. They see the impact that professional basketball and the NBA can have on their countries, that it had on them. And now they're carrying the banner and they're driving basketball in their respective countries. So it's wonderful to see and to have that alumni network of players and former players going out and contributing back in their respective countries.
What kind of output are you getting from these former players so far? What sort of anecdotes can you share that would inspire future players, probably in a retirement stage, wanting to see what's next after I give up my jersey?
Well, their impact is so widespread. I mean, we've had former players who ended up buying NBA franchises, like a Michael Jordan as an example. Dwayne Wade now owns a piece of the Utah Jazz. So we've had Grant Hill as a part owner in the Atlanta Hawks. So that's one pathway where you can actually retire from the NBA and then go build, a different career, and then buy an NBA team or buy an NBA franchise. We've had people who have really done some incredible philanthropic things and give back to their communities and build hospitals and really give back in their community. And we have former players that have gone on to coach. And Monty Williams now is the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. He played in the NBA. There are so many paths, and what we try to do with our players and is talk to them about the potential and the opportunities. Or again, some of the players we talked about are running federations now in their respective countries. So I think by playing in the NBA, you get this wonderful global view of the world and the business and the impact that you can have on communities and people. And our former players are actually going out and doing things that they care about and impacting the world in ways that are important to them.
And not just players, but coaches, as you mentioned. And it comes to mind that Becky Hammon of the Women's NBA is going to be inducted in August as well in Naismith Hall of Fame class of 2023.
Yes.
She's a woman, she's a coach, and she's going to be recognized.
Yes.
What's been the role of NBA in propagating women's NBA? Because it's already on its 26th year. 26th
year, yep. It's been a commitment from the very beginning to build a world-class women's basketball league. It's the longest running, longest standing professional women's sports team league out there. And the success, we're now starting to see incredible success, incredible growth, our viewership, our attendance, our number of marketing partners and merchandising partners going into this season. We've never had more momentum since we launched the WNBA than we have had now. And I think it's because more and more people around the world are just recognizing how talented these women are, how exciting the women's game is, and they want to see more of it. We're playing our first ever WNBA game outside the United States in just a couple of weeks in Toronto. The game sold out, Kathy, in less than an hour. Sold out the arena where the Toronto Raptors played, 20,000 seats, full house, the number of marketing partners that are supporting it. So it's going to be terrific, and I think it's just a matter of time before the WNBA continues to grow into this, and it already has this global interest. But we're seeing incredible growth there.
Incredible growth for players as well as coaches. Do you see that the trajectory of international coaches wanting to take part in the NBA is also going to grow? Or has it grown through the years, as we've seen from the Dream Team of 1992?
Oh, it has too. I mean, there is a Filipino coach who's coaching in the Stockton Kings right now, and so we're starting to see more. There's some coaches from Africa who have actually coming into the summer league and helping to coach some of the NBA teams during the summer league. So many of the NBA coaches here will come out. Coach Spoelstra, for example, Coach Spo, they're playing tonight. He's actually been out here several times and has done coaching clinics for us here too. So it is a wonderful community of players, of coaches, of administrators, all really trying to grow the game of basketball.
Let's talk about the fans, because they are also an important part of the ecosystem, and the youth, as we've talked about that at the onset. How are you ensuring that you're able to reach them in the right venues, in the right platforms, say the digital space. What has the NBA done, along with the FIBA, to ensure that you capture that audience and ensure that they know basketball in the venues that they're often at, in front of the mobile phones?
We have to stay ahead of it. We have to understand and talk to our fans about how they consume content, how they want to consume content, and then we get ahead of it. And so, for example, here in the Philippines, we actually make sure that our games are widely available on free-to-air, on pay TV, on digital, so that you can get access to every single game here in the market. We try to make that easy. We curate content for our fans. We have a regional, a local Facebook page that's populated with content that we think is going to be relevant to Filipinos here. So it's not just the U.S. site, but it's actually creating customized content. We did a film feature, if you will, and there was a filmmaker from the Philippines that talked about a brand of basketball in the mountains, an indigenous brand of basketball, and told that story, and that lives on our NBA app. So we're really trying to create localized stories and localizing the content to give people reasons, and compelling reasons, to engage with us digitally and locally. So those are the sorts of things that we're trying to do here to continue to grow our fan base.
Essentially, you want boots on the ground. So definitely coaches and maybe players getting to teach the kids themselves, maybe in makeshift basketball courts, if you've seen them in covered courts here, maybe even the small roads. How are you going to get to do that in an archipelagic country like the Philippines?
Yeah, I think it's working with the Federation, it's working with FIBA, and it's our office here, being able to go out and do these activities on the ground. Our junior NBA program, a lot of the activities during COVID shifted to virtual, but you can actually create training skills and videos, and we've done that. We actually have coaches that have done video clinics, and then we make those available on our website, on our app. So those, and then if you're a coach too, you can actually get a training plan through the junior NBA program, and then run your own practice. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing to try to encourage more and more kids to play the game of basketball.
Just another factual note that you've had to read so much more international names in the second pick of the NBA draft every single year. And I know you put in a lot of work.
I do.
But what kind of surnames have you encountered that were probably the toughest to pronounce?
Well, I will tell you, the toughest one was my first draft. And this is before everyone knew Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? So his brother was eligible for the draft that year, and I remember seeing his brother Thanasis Antetokounmpo. And on the piece of paper, Kathy, the name was this long on the piece of paper, and there were a whole lot of vowels. And I said, I don't think I can say that name. But what I did is I listened to Thanasis say it. So we actually have players look into a camera and say their name. And I would listen to it and listen to it and listen to it. And I would practice it because you want to get those names right. And I know the commissioner does the same thing, where we study the names, because that is the day that these players' dreams come true, and no one wants to get their name called wrong, right? And so that's why I take, and the commissioner, Adam Silver, takes so much pride, I think, in knowing the names and how to say it properly, so that when they look back on that moment, that they can actually say, wow, okay, that was well done. And to this day, when I see Thanasis, and I got it right, Thanasis always thanks me for getting his name right. I also called Nikola Jokic his name, and Nikola obviously won the MVP the last 2 years and is having a great year this year. So I've had the opportunity to call some really great players' names.
So you're really noticing that a lot more names there are international on that list every single year. And it's just a testament of what the NBA is doing to internationalize basketball.
Absolutely. Like I said, a full 25% of our players, 120 of our players now, were born outside the United States.
Yeah, but hang on, you started with baseball, didn't you? As I was reading, you kind of taken a part in Major League Basketball.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn Tech.
Baseball. Yeah. Major League Baseball. Yes.
So you were a baseball player, and then you're now doing the basketball scene. So how did that shift happen?
Yeah, so growing up, I always, like I said, I played basketball young. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and Brooklyn was a mecca of basketball. So I always loved basketball, but I was a better baseball player than I was a basketball player. And so my career took me, I went to high school where we won the New York City High School Championship, and we played at Yankee Stadium, which was the highlight of my career, to play at a high school game at Yankee Stadium. And I went on to play baseball in college as well. So I loved playing the game of baseball, and I was just a better baseball player than I was a basketball player. But I always loved the game of basketball. And when I had the opportunity back in 1999 to join the NBA, even back then we're talking about the aspirations of being a global sport. And, that was, I joined 7 years after the Dream Team. So I also got inspired by that Dream Team. And I just had the opportunity to, come over and work for the NBA because I saw this global opportunity. And, my parents were both born outside the United States as well. And so I've always had this desire to do something internationally. And I think the NBA really provided that.
You get the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Final words before the finals here in the Philippines for FIBA.
I'll tell you, one, I'm thrilled about how the NBA and basketball is doing here. It's the #1 most popular sports league here. And I always talk about how proud I am of the Filipino fans who are fans of the NBA, the most passionate fans in the world, #1. #2, I think that this country and Indonesia and Japan as well, but they're going to embrace this World Cup. They're going to make our NBA players and non-NBA players who come here feel welcome. And I'm thrilled for basketball fans around the world to get the chance to tune in and watch the World Cup here in August.
And win for all. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. All the best in the games.
Thank you, Kathy. Good talking to you.
Thank you. And catch us again next Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Manila time on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. I'm Kathy Yang, and this is Thought Leaders.